What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Game Channel. I'm AJ Gels. Guys, how's it going? We're back once more with the weekly show, and as the title says, holy shit, we're actually on time this week. Yeah, I'm doing this Friday night, so we have plenty of time to get it uploaded and whatnot. This will also be a smaller file. If you can tell by the top of the screen, there's not as many articles as we usually cover. Just because I really haven't found much to talk about this week, but I did diversify the websites, and I tried to do something new this week. If you go follow me on Twitter, you can find, I'll probably retweet every article as I save them on my phone. Every article that I plan to talk about at this show. If you follow me on Twitter, you can see me retweet a lot of these articles and kind of get a look at what I'll be talking about later in the week, if you're interested. I think that's about it for. I really don't have any big announcements other than, as usual, links to every article and timestamps will be in the description below. Please support the websites and the news outlets that I read articles from. Obviously, I don't do the reporting. I'm just sitting here reading and giving opinions. So please go visit the websites and share and give them the clicks and the revenue and whatnot. It always helps the business. So first article we got here, Metal Gear Survive beta returns next week and will add PC. Article Shabana RF IGN. Metal Gear Survive's first beta took place back in January on PS4 and Xbox One and let players drop into 2 maps with 3 missions for co-op mode. Konami has announced a second beta to take place over the weekend on February 16th, and this time PC players have been invited to the party. You can join the fray when the beta kicks off on PC, PS4, and Xbox One on February 16th. It wraps up February 18th. As with the last beta, there will be 3 missions across 2 maps in co-op mode that can support up to 4 players online. Special daily missions will also be available. Players can earn an in-game bonus for the full release once they've created their character. As with the last beta, the participation rewards are a Foxhound nameplate, a Metal Gear Rex head accessory, and a bandana accessory. This is the last opportunity to play the game before its release on February 20th, and the first time for PC players to get in on the action. I played the beta. I probably won't play this one on camera just because it's the 16th to the 18th. I think on the I think on those days we'll be starting Bayonetta and Fea. So we got plenty to play over the weekend, along with Kingdom Come Deliverance, and I just started 7 Deadly Sins, Knights of Britannia. So we're probably not going to be playing this beta. I mean, because also again we played the other beta, but we will be playing the full game when it comes out. Really, this beta sold me on Metal Gear Survive. I was initially thinking, oh, this is just going to be a reskin of Metal Gear Solid 5. This is just going to be... It wasn't going to be anything too terribly original, and then I got my hands on it and started playing it, going, oh, wow, there's really a crafting system here. I really like how they added the survival aspects to Metal Gear Solid 5, and I'm really interested to see what kind of story that they pull here and where they go with this. So we have a couple quick hitters in this, actually, because just ignore that. I'm just moving that just so I remember to click on it next, because it kind of matches with these couple articles. The Surge 2 has been announced, according to Eurogamer article Wesley Yin-Pool. Like I said, Eurogamer, if anybody remembers The Surge, I did a couple of videos for it. I'm not going to go back and finish that game unless people really want to see it. But overall, The Surge was an interesting game. It was very Dark Souls-esque, or I'd say it's pretty much flat out Dark Souls. With kind of right there. The Surge 2, the sequel to 2017 solid sci-fi Souls-like. I love how Souls-like has become part of the vernacular. Has been announced. Publisher Focus Home Interactive and Deck 13 are once again working together with a view to releasing the action RPG in 2019 on consoles and PC. All we have to go on assets-wise, right now is a single piece of artwork above, but Focus Home Interactive says The Surge 2 takes place in a brand new environment with improved combat. Here's the official blurb, and I quote, "The Surge 2 keeps what fans and critics loved about the original, hardcore combat utilizing a unique dynamic limb targeting system and deep character progression, while also expanding greatly upon the formula. The Surge 2 takes place in a brand new environment, a sprawling, devastated city with larger and more ambitious level design made possible by Dick 13's upgraded and improved engine. The combat is more brutal and tactical than ever, with even more options, thanks to an expanded limb targeting system. In addition, more abilities, weapons, implants, and drones give players a vast arsenal to build their character with in their fight against the array of diverse new enemies and bosses." End quote. And that's pretty much the article there. Again, another quick hitter. I liked The Surge for what it's worth. It's just the Souls-like games really have trouble holding my attention for long periods of time. But all in all, I think it was a good game. But again, it's very Dark Souls-esque, and I know there's a market for it. I feel like I had something else I wanted to say about this, and I can't really remember what it was. Yep, we're just gonna move on. You kind of saw this while I was moving this article over, but Vampyr, from the studio behind Life is Strange, is coming in June. Originally, this game was set late last year, but I got pushed to this year, and we haven't really gotten a new release date. But according to Charlie Hill of Polygon, we finally have the release date. Vampyr, Vampyr, the morally ambiguous action-adventure from the studio behind Life is Strange, has a release date. The game will be out June 5th on PlayStation 4, Windows PC, and Xbox One. Publisher Focus Home Interactive announced today. The Dishonored-style game focuses on Dr. Jonathan Reed, a former soldier and a medical doctor cursed with vampirism. In 1918 London, players will become intimately involved in the lives of citizens and will ultimately have the power to choose whether they live or die. From our interview with developer Don't Nod Entertainment last year, and I quote, "Reed wakes up in a mass grave during the Spanish flu epidemic in London. The early game will be about coming to grips with being a vampire, while the arc of the game will focus on how he deals with the malady, and his quest for a cure. The team said it chose 1918 because it's such a period of dramatic cultural change, a time when a vampire could perhaps secretly find a safe place to live alongside mortals." End quote. Don't Nod has been teasing the game with a series of short developer diaries on YouTube, the most recent of which we've embedded above. My favorite moment comes near the very beginning. It's a darkened theater packed full with people making the game. In the background, you can see the office Christmas tree. It's likely blah, 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 blah. Let's actually talk about the game here. It's a beautiful moment. I don't care. Developer diary, Stories for the Dark, discussed how Don't Nod applied the principles of traditional theater to Vampyr. It also details some of the motion capture that went into the game. Fans of Don't Nod's previous work of the Dishonored series and even the cult classic Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines take note. Vampyr looks like it could be special. I could see that it's kind of a mix between Dishonored and Vampire the Masquerade. If you haven't seen Masquerade Bloodlines, really interesting game. Game looks like it's not pretty to look at, but it is a damn fine RPG. And I'm really excited for Vampyr. I've really had my eye on this game since it got announced. I really like. I'm interested to see what Don't Nod's going to do when not be kind of doing the Life is Strange kind of thing. They're doing like a true like action game, and I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. Although I believe it's a third-person game. It's not first person like Dishonored. I kind of get why they're comparing it to Dishonored, because there's kind of the powers are sort of kind of like shadowy and whatnot, but the actual combat's in third person, and from what I saw, the combat reminded me a lot of the Technomancer. If anybody's seen my Let's Play for that, really really interesting game. If you haven't looked into it, I definitely suggest it. I really cannot wait. June 5th, PC, PlayStation, and Xbox for Vampyr. Now, kind of out of the quick hitters and into some more actual, news. This is going to be Watch Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire Ship Combat in Action. This is an article on PC Gamer by Andy Kelly. It's here. At the end of Pillars of Eternity, after slaying Thaus, I think that's correct, and restoring the natural cycle of life and death to the Direwood, It's been a while since I've seen anything from Pillars of Eternity, forgive me. The Watcher settles down in their stronghold of, oh god, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but any hopes of a peaceful life are dashed when in the cavernous dungeons beneath the fortress, the god Aethys awakens. The deity, taking the form of a giant stone titan, breaks free. Cadnua is destroyed, and the Watcher is badly injured, but they survive, and so begins a quest for vengeance as our heroes travel to the exotic Deadire archipelago in pursuit of the rampaging god that destroyed their home and left them for dead. Deadire is a direct sequel to Pillars of Eternity, the crowdfunded RPG that took the best bits of classic Infinity engines like Baldur's Gate and Planescape, I think is correct, Torment, deep systems, rich worlds, reactive stories, and confidently retooled them for a modern audience. You are, once again, the Watcher, an individual blessed or cursed, depending on who you ask, with the ability to look into people's souls and relive the past lives of their ancestors. The character you created in the first game can be imported, or you can make a new one. The ragtag islands of the Deadire archipelago are scattered across a great expanse of ocean spanning thousands of miles. Some of these islands have been inhabited for generations by indigenous tribes or have recently been colonized by foreign explorers, but many remain uncharted, home to rare treasures, forgotten dungeons, and fell beasts. Developer Obsidian, Knights of the Old Republic 2, Fallout New Vegas, is promising a variety of terrain, including lush jungles and barren deserts, a far cry from the temperate forests of Direwood. I think I'm going with Direwood, which was a fairly typical fantasy setting in most respects. I mean, I think the fact that Obsidian has their name connected to this, and the fact that Pillars of Eternity was so good, from what I've heard, I never got I didn't get a chance to play it. I know it's on PC, or on console, and that's more likely for me to play it. I just had not picked it up. And knowing that, and seeing that we can, like, import our characters, I kind of want to... I kind of want to play it on PS4 or Xbox One now, or play the original on camera, and then we can play this one on camera, because we'll talk about the release date and consoles and all that when it comes out in the next article. We'll finish this one up, then we'll watch the video. The Lawless Deadire archipelago is like a watery Wild West. There we go. And someone is always looking to scrap. Pirates roam the seas looking for passing ships to plunder or just blow out of the water for sport. And this is the thing that really sets Deadire apart from its predecessor. As well as the traditional RPG stuff you'd expect from a Pillars game, you'll also be spending a lot of time at sea, exploring, traveling, and trying not to end up as a pile of smoldering driftwood. Freedom of expression is a big part of the Infinity Engine lineage of RPGs, and Deadire is no different. The Watcher doesn't have to be a hero, and there are plenty of ways to cause trouble in the archipelago. As well as pirates, you'll see defenseless merchant ships on the world map, and you can attack and loot them if your black heart desires it. Jeez, sorry, I chugged the Coke before this to stay hydrated. It's coming back to bite me. But repeatedly sinking civilian ships will give you a bad reputation, and people you meet can react to it. There we go. Ship combat, which is turn-based, takes place on a separate screen with its own dedicated interface. There's a circle showing you which way your ship is facing relative to the enemy, and you command your crew by selecting items on the menu. You can use a turn to reposition your ship, speed up to get closer to your opponent, slow down to create some distance, or fire your weapons. Your cannons are only effective at specific ranges, however, which makes positioning important. If you're trading paint with the enemy, your long-range guns will be useless. An illustration showing the enemy ship, its distance, and its current level of damage is an at-a-glance way to see how the ship battle is going. This is an elegant way of representing naval combat rather than trying to make it occur in real time, which Pillars engine wasn't designed for. There we go. Wind was originally going to be a factor, but Obsidian decided it simply wasn't fun having to manage that on top of everything else. The studio is still refining the system, and it may change again before release, but what's in place now is a fine way of getting across the idea of fighting at sea. If this all sounds a bit ship-heavy, don't worry, there's plenty of traditional RPG stuff in Pillars 2, including wizards, dungeons, and dragons, whose skulls you can decorate your quarters with. While investigating an uncharted island, I stumble into a sandblasted ruin, guarded by an immense titan quivering with magical energy, so while it is indeed very big on pirates and sailing, it's still fundamentally a fantasy game, and it won't all be small, isolated islands either. Nekataka, I hope that's correct, is a huge city and a cultural hub where you'll probably spend hours completing quests and talking to locals. Obsidian could have just made Pillars again with a new story and setting, and a lot of people would have been happy, but it's exciting to know that Deadfire is so much more, bringing thrilling seafaring elements to the familiar fantasy role-playing. Naval combat, crew management, ship upgrades, and piracy are just a few of the tantalizing new additions to the Pillars formula, and it'll be fascinating to delve into the strange cultures, rituals, and history of this vivid new setting. Deadfire get a code for exclusive game. Yeah, for some reason, when he's explaining this, it reminds me a lot of Suikoden 4. If anybody remembers that, it might be a little bit of a deep cut there. It had a weird kind of like naval combat thing. I really want to play Suikoden 4 again. That was a really interesting game. Either way, well, let's check out this video. I haven't actually watched this yet, so can we? Maybe we can't. Give me a second, guys. Alright, guys. I don't know. I sat here, tried to figure it out. I can't find this video anywhere that's not here, and I can't get this video to play. So, you want to try it yourself, it'll be in the link below. I'm sorry about that. I feel bad pulling something up like that, and then it doesn't work. Alright, well, let's take a look at this article here on Game Informer. Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire coming to consoles. Article Matt Miller of Game Informer. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire is nearing completion for PC, Mac, and Linux, with a release date planned for April 3rd. For players without a dedicated gaming PC, you can still look forward to a chance to try out the sequel, as Game Informer has learned that Deadfire is set to come to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch during the holiday season of 2018. While Obsidian heads up primary development duties for Pillars 2 on PC, the game is being ported to consoles by developer Red Cerberus. Versus Evil and Obsidian are working together to publish the game. For more Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire, check out blah 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 blah, all that stuff. You can go check that out in the link below. Their take. The original Pillars of Eternity was a fantastic isometric role-playing game, and there's good reason to believe that the sequel will continue that tradition of excellence. The original game released last summer for Xbox One, PlayStation 4. It's good news that console players won't have to wait quite as long for the sequel. Undoubtedly, Nintendo enthusiasts should also be excited the game is heading to the Switch, a platform that is establishing its cred as a role-playing game destination. See, I totally agree with that, and it's really interesting that they mentioned that, because I would love to play this game on Switch. And that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm not sure I'm going to necessarily pick up the first game on console. I don't know if you want to see me make a character in the first one and then continue it up in Deadfire. I'll do it. But I really do want to get my Switch more involved in the channel, and I think this is a great way. This is a game that I think I would play so much more on Switch. Really, I've been finding that lately, that I think the Switch is a great home for turn-based RPGs. Like, I would love Persona 5 on the Switch. I'm playing right now I'm switching over to Vita. I'm playing Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. I'm playing the first one on Switch on my Vita right now. I love Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on my Switch. I really like. I'm going to be playing Valkyria Chronicles 4 on Switch. There are just some games that I think really fit Switch, and really handhelds in general. And it's those big, like, expansive RPGs, stuff like. Come on, brain! If I could play Divinity Original Sin 2. I have not played that game in the longest time, but it's because I have to sit at my computer and play it, and it's just, I kind of want to sit in my bed and play it. If that makes sense, I'd like something like that, as opposed to a more traditional action game. But I think handhelds fit that RPG style so well, just because you don't have to sit at a desk. You can sit on your bed. What I like to do, I like to play in the tub. So yes, I know it's very manly. I like to play in the tub. So what I'll do is I'll bring my Vita in, and I'll sit in the tub. I'll maybe remote play off my PS4. I'll level grind in Persona 5, or I'll level grind in this game or that game, or I'll sit and play Danganronpa, something like that. I think that handheld consoles with this style of game really fits handheld. And I think what I really want to see out of the Switch is more traditional, like JRPGs, like turn-based stuff, like Final Fantasy, or I guess earlier Final Fantasy, Persona, Lost. If anybody remembers Lost Odyssey, that was a really good game. Last Remnant, I have that on PC. That is a really interesting RPG. I'm sorry, I've gotten way off track. I've kind of talking some conceptual stuff. Sorry. All right, moving on. Yes, if you see, it's getting late. I'm tired. So I'm gonna probably be a little rambly. Let's see here. Another article by Game Informer. 10 bold changes Exodus is making to Metro. Article Javi Gwaltney. Hopefully that's correct. Like I said, Game Informer. The article reads, through familiar, mask-obscured faces returned from prior games, Exodus is bringing sweeping changes to Metro's claustrophobic brand of action horror. We recently went to 4A Game Studio in Malta and took a sneak peek at the latest entry. We came away with a sense of great ambition and boldness on behalf of 4A's attempt to make the best Metro game. The team is completely refining certain features longtime fans consider tenets of the series. These are the 10 biggest changes we saw. 1. Say goodbye to the Metro. Both Metro 2033 and Last Light took place in and under the Moscow Metro. As trailers suggest, this is no longer the case. After an introductory sequence in Metro, Exodus finds Artyom and his wife Anna and the rest of the crew cutting through the Russian wilderness in search of hope. This means bigger spaces, dangerous new factions, and a new world of trouble for our survivors. Not much to say there. That's cool. Nothing against the Metro and the destroyed city. I just think if they did another one of those, it would really kind of get bland. Let's see here. Exodus is bigger, but it's not open world. During our studio visit, 4A Games pressed upon us repeatedly the importance of realizing that Exodus is not an open world game. Instead, Exodus is comprised of several huge sandbox levels that funnel in and out of the linear path of the story missions, as well as side activities for you to find once you finish an area. You move on to the next one without any way to return to it. Okay. Still, the fly-throughs of the sandbox regions were impressive and diverse. The largest area in Last Light, according to 4A, was 200 by 100 meters, and Exodus sandboxes stretched 2 square kilometers. Okay, see, that's always what I find when people say it's not an open world game, it's a sandbox game. I would argue that they're very, very similar. Which I'm not saying that people would say that they aren't similar, but this is an important thing to note, because some sandbox games I would consider The Evil Within 2 a sandbox game, not open world technically, because it's those smaller little areas. You had the districts and then the Marrow in between, but you could backtrack and you could go between the areas. In this one, it might be these sandbox areas, but you can't go back. So I think that's an important thing to know. But in the same time, I think these bigger areas really do fit the Metro game idea, and I have a feeling that from the way this is written that we're going to have incentive to backtrack and maybe do some side stuff or hunt for things in these areas before moving on to the next one. The ammo economy is gone. This is interesting to me. In the previous Metro titles, you use military-grade ammunition to purchase weapons, upgrades for said weapons, and various tools like medkits. This made combat encounters tense and tactical, forcing you to decide if sacrificing bullets to mow down the guards in your way was worth it, or if you could instead take a longer route and bypass your foes with stealth. Since you're not in the Metro anymore, the ammo economy is no longer a concern. Instead, the economy has been replaced by a scavenging system that seems more in line with recent Fallout entries, turning junk and valuables you find in the world into 2 resources, chemicals and materials. These can then be used to craft tools and other valuable items. Prepare to seek out workstations littered around each map to craft precious ammo, though. Okay. I get it. It makes sense. I really like the ammo economy, just the fact that when things came down to it, you could choose to use the ammo in your gun as opposed, it's like shooting money. It's one of those things that it makes sense why it's gone. I liked it, but I'm not gonna sit here and cry about it just because I think it makes sense why it's gone. Combat has been enhanced with Metro increasing its size. It makes sense for the game to expand its combat and stealth gameplay as well. While the classic flexible gameplay of Metro remains steadfast, letting players choose between stealth and guns blazing action, 4A has complicated things and pleasing ways. You now have the option between lethal and non-lethal takedowns for foes, giving you a happy pacifistic medium between violent killing, and completely bypassing enemies, boo. The takedown animations are also now varied, with each animation depending on what weapon you're using, the speed of your approach, and where you are adjacent to the enemy. There we go. Beyond this expansion, the game also keeps tabs on your actions. Mowing down members of one faction can result in them meeting you with open hostility should you run into them down the road. However, treating them with relative gentleness could make for friendlier run-ins. Interesting. Oh, okay. Now that's an interesting concept. The fact that you kind of that it can affect your standing with the factions, but then it comes into I think later it talks about the factions. I think that's going to be interesting, and I question, does that change how the story works, or does it change? Does it change the story, or does it change like side stuff? Like I would like to go a little deeper into that, but it could be really interesting depending on how that works. Like it's not based on choices you make in the sense of, well, you can make choice A or choice B. In this one, it's the way you actually play the game affects how they react to you. That could be really interesting. All right, let's see. Number 5, your hub world is on the move. With the metro gone, so are the various stations that would act as your hub worlds, letting you restock ammo and talk to inhabitants for bits of story building. This time, they've been replaced with a train called the Aurora. While we weren't told much about the specifics of the locomotive, creative director, Andrei Prokhorov. I can't pronounce that, I'm sorry, did say, and I quote, "The Aurora will be constantly changing along the journey with more cars, different types of cars, and people that join you." End quote. Again, interesting. I'd like to hear more and see more about it, but they caught my attention. Number 6, you use vehicles. 4A Games told us there would be vehicles for the players to commandeer during the journey. Though the studio was tight-lipped when it came to saying what kind of vehicles. Outside of the Aurora, we saw Artyom row a boat across the lake, but that was the only player-controlled vehicle we witnessed during the gameplay demonstration. I really don't have much to comment on that one. The game takes place over a year. 2033 and Last Light took place over the course of a few days. Exodus's journey instead occurs over the course of a year, with each sandbox encompassing a season. The fall level takes place in a gorgeous mountain setting filled with mutant bears, while summer takes place in a deserty environment with burning oil platforms on the coast that give off a bit of a Max vibe. Okay, so what does that make? That basically says there's 4 levels, or like 4 areas, or because that to me would feel like a short game unless you really are spending a lot of time in these sandbox areas. Again, it's just something else. I want a little bit more details on that, but again, I'm not gonna knock it until, because right now really Metro Exodus is really interesting me. I'm just curious on when I can get my hands on it. Moving on, number 8. Weapon upgrades are different now. Whereas previous games had you buying upgrades or discovering weapons in the field with unremovable attachments, Exodus makes things a little more relaxed and stressful at the same time. Those things are very opposed. If you come across a weapon in the world that has a scope or clip extender you want, but you don't want the weapon it's attached to, good news, you can remove it and use it with compatible gun in your inventory. A lot of attachments are available for your guns, scopes, barrels, stocks, magazines, and attachments. However, weapon upkeep is now something to be concerned about. If you don't visit your workstation enough to perform maintenance on your gun, it can become unclean. They never stop working completely, but when guns dirty, they eject lethal dirt from the barrel and suffer stats hit to damage and accuracy. Okay, interesting. That's a kind of a neat, kind of like a push and pull. I like it. Nothing to say other than that's a neat concept. There are side excursions. While lacking the typical quest giver interaction that defines side quests, 4A Games says it's creating a wealth of activities for each area for players to find as they explore. Players can learn about these quests by reading notes found in the world, talking to characters, or overhearing conversations. Going off the beaten path could lead to a firefight with bandits in a farm or a house filled with supplies, as well as some corpses that appear to have betrayed one another shortly after they draw their last breaths. Again, that's kind of what I thought. I thought there had to be more content than just story stuff and a more linear style game with these sort of sandboxed areas. Number 10, the factions are more self-contained, whereas the factions in 2033 and Last Light formed a tightly interconnected and often hostile community. Exodus has factions that live in isolation from one another that you encounter. During our gameplay demo, we ran into a group of religious fanatics that worshipped a massive fish living in a nearby lake. Artyom's actions toward each faction, namely whether he responds with violence or pacifism in their initial meeting, will define his relationship with each. Again, for more on Exodus, check out right there. And again, you can go to the article by following the link in the description. Really interesting concept to... again, I'll say the same thing as when we found out about the different kinds of takedowns. It's a very interesting thing. The way you play the game could affect your relations with people, not just the choices you make in dialogue or whatever. That's an interesting concept. And all that. But there's my thoughts right there on a little look into what Metro Exodus is going to be, and I still can't wait to get my hands on it. I think it's going to be really fun. Real quick before we get into our last 4 articles, I'm going to stand up for a couple minutes, grab something to drink, and we'll come back. We'll finish everything up. All right, we're back with our final chunk of articles. Thanks for waiting. I know it really wasn't long for you guys, but whatever. Article comes by way Games Radar by Alex Avard. Whoa there, a huge Red Dead Redemption 2 leak suggests the game will have Battle Royale, FPS gunplay, and fully explorable trains. For some reason, I was always reading that as terrains, not... Whatever. More Red Dead Redemption 2 has arrived. Information has arrived after last week's announcement that the game will be being delayed to October. But this news isn't of the official kind. Instead, it comes by way of trusted reviews who claim to have obtained an internal Rockstar development memo revealing more details about Red Dead Redemption 2. God damn it, I can't read. About Red Dead Redemption 2's multiplayer, open world, and more. According to the report written by Trusted Reviews Jordan King, the development notes mention 3 multiplayer modes of Red Dead Redemption 2: Battle Royale, Revive and Survive, and Money Grab. Battle Royale will be familiar to anybody who's played PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds or another game with popular last man standing PvP genre. And does make sense given that Rockstar developed a similar mode for GTA Online last year. As for the other 2, Revive and Survive will apparently work like Team Deathmatch, not surprised, but players are given limited opportunities to revive teammates before they get killed for good. Yeah. Money Grab sounds a bit like Battlefield Hardline's Blood Money mode, in which 2 teams fight over a central objective by collecting money and taking it back to their base. Okay. Simple concepts. I'm not a big multiplayer guy, but again, anybody out there who enjoys that stuff, there you go. According to Trusted Reviews, the memo also states that Red Dead Redemption 2's online world will be more immersive than that of GTA Online's Los Santos, with stores that open and close depending on the time of day, and a tent progression system, really, that works similar to GTA Online's apartments. Interesting. Activities available in the open world will apparently include fishing, herding, gold mining, and weapon and riding challenges, while an official companion app for mobile phones will supposedly include a poker minigame, awesome, alongside other social features. The report also mentions vehicles, customizable minecarts, handcarts and carriages, and fully explorable trains. Gameplay features first-person and third-person perspective available for both single and multiplayer, and branching narratives dependent on player actions during campaign missions. Yeah, I'm not surprised on that one. Finally, Trust Reviews revealed 2 new images for Red Dead Redemption 2, which unofficially obtained via the memo, and both appear to corroborate, there we go, with what we've seen so far, showing characters from previous trailers and screens, lending further credence to the report's statements. The leak, though, to be taken with a pinch of salt, represents the largest information drop we've had about Red Dead Redemption 2 so far, which remains tightly under wraps by Rockstar as it continues to work on the game until the new release date of October 26th. But what do you think of the leak, all that stuff, for Games Radar? my full take on this is I don't really care much about the multiplayer stuff. If that's, I rarely do. As far as the open world, so I really hope that when it's, activities available in the open world, like this stuff is available in single player and not just online. And I also really hope that it does what GTA does and keeps the single player in the single player and the online in the online. I want them to be separate entities, not, well, they're both one and the same, because I think that is a quick way. That's one of those that, to me, it's one of those, what's the old expression? You try and please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. I don't think it works very well in games, or at least I've never experienced a game that tries to mix both of those into one cohesive unit. I mean, kind of, if you count stuff like The Division, but I think even then The Division is inherently a multiplayer game with PvE elements. While Red Dead and GTA and all this, there is a single player and there is a multiplayer. I don't think they would work if you fuse them. I think they need to remain separate. But all in all, I'm still really interested in Red Dead. I love the first one, Marston and all that. I love the, well, I guess technically it's the second one if you count Red Dead Revolver, but whatever. It's when you want to split hairs. But all in all, I'm pretty pumped for Red Dead 2, and I still think it's gonna get delayed another time just because it's Rockstar, and I mean, they're saying, oh well, we haven't heard a lot from Red Dead. Well, duh, it's because they play everything so close to the chest. And I guess, speaking of close to the chest, if you're listening to this right now, stay tuned at the very end. I heard some stuff about CD Projekt Red, and we'll talk about it. I don't have an article for it, but whatever, while that's in my mind. But of course, I mean, Rockstar is holding this stuff close to the chest. I can't wait for the game, supposedly coming out in October. And we have a GameSpot article here. Red Dead Redemption 2 won't be delayed again, Take-Two says. I still highly doubt it. Last week, Rockstar Games delayed Red Dead Redemption 2 for the second time, pushing the much-anticipated Western to October 2018. Take-Two, the parent company of Rockstar Games, today held its first earnings call since the announcement. CEO Strauss Zelnick, that's a name, commented on the delay, reiterating what Rockstar said, that it needed more time to polish the game, adding some further words of his own on the news. Perhaps most notably, Zelnick said he is, and I quote, confident, end quote, that the game won't be delayed again. And I quote, the entire focus of this organization is delivering the highest quality entertainment experience of any kind, Zelnick said. And more often than not, we feel proud that we're able to do that. All of our labels are focused. Jesus Christ, I hate switching sites like this with all the different fonts. It's really hard to stay on track. All of our labels are focused on releasing a title when they reach the apex of effort and perfection. And in this instance, Rockstar Games felt more polish was required, and naturally we are in favor of that decision. To delay Red Dead Redemption 2, the date of October 26th is set, and I'm confident that will be the release date. We are incredibly excited about it, end quote. Red Dead Redemption 2 was previously scheduled for a springtime release. Regarding its new date, Zelnick said Take-Two, as a company, has experience releasing games throughout the year. The holiday season, however, can be advantageous, Zelnick said, as consumers tend to spend more during that time of year. And while Red Dead Redemption 2 will go up against new installments in the Battlefield and Call of Duty franchises, there is less competition than there was a decade ago, Zelnick observed. Well, yeah, because everybody's trying to push their new IPs earlier in the year. So actually, there's less stuff fighting in the fall. The fall is kind of your big franchise, kind of like Battle Royale, so to speak. But all in all, I mean, you have Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, it's going to demolish so much. It's just going to demolish almost everything in its path. Here, and I quote, we release titles all over the calendar year heading into the holiday season. Can be a particularly powerful time, and I'd observe that while there are some competitive releases, it's a lot more of an open field today than it was 10 years ago, he said. There's plenty of opportunity to go around, so we're really excited about Red Dead Redemption 2 and the timing related to the launch, end quote. Finally, Zelnick discussed Rockstar's ambition to never rest on its laurels, but instead continually push forward with new and innovative ideas. Rockstar stands alone in this regard, Zelnick argued, and I quote, "Rockstar Games never ever rests on the past and is utterly focused on innovation and breaking barriers, with an eye towards an amazing entertainment experience," he said. "It's easy for me to say those words, but exceedingly hard to do, and I would argue impossible for others to replicate what Rockstar does. What we mostly feel around here is a sense of enormous gratitude to our colleagues at Rockstar Games," end quote. Zelnick went on to say that Take-Two as a company is not driven by financial considerations as its main focus. Really? I highly doubt that, but whatever. And I quote, "A genuine, not financially driven commitment to quality comes first," Zelnick said. "Thankfully, we run what we believe is highly rational, exceedingly disciplined business environment, which gives people who are creative a very safe place to do their best work," end quote. In other words, Take-Two's newest earnings report showed that GTA Online continues to make lots and lots of money from microtransactions. We also learned that GTA 5 has now shipped an astonishing 90 million copies. All in all, I don't think this delay, I mean, if anybody was curious, no, I don't think this delay is going to hurt the game, and I'm just kind of being flippant when I say, oh, it's going to get delayed again. It's just me kind of being a butthole, because it's fun. But all in all, I mean, Rockstar is one of those studios, it's kind of like I mentioned earlier, CD Projekt Red. It's a lot like, come on, brain, there are a few other studios that right now I'm getting tired. So, nothing's coming to mind right now, but there's a few studios out there that their name almost means quality when it comes to the games they produce. Like I said, I mean, CD Projekt Red's another one. Really, I'm looking back on Rockstar, and I can't name you a really crappy Rockstar game. I mean, I can name you a few that I kind of went, not their best work, but I can't name you a truly just piece of crap Rockstar game. So, with this delay and everything, I'm sure it's not that, oh, well, it's not prepared. I think they do really want to. It's one of the times that I will take the company at its word and say, yeah, it's polished, and it's a lot of that kind of stuff. Moving on to our next to last article, Bandai Namco making a Switch exclusive FPS and Ridge Racer 8, it seems. Let's see here. Article Eddie Makuch of GameSpot. We got a couple updates, but we'll read the. See here. We'll read the original article. During a Bandai Namco earnings briefing in November last year, management told about how the company is adding more resources to Switch development. President Mitsukai Taguchi said, according to the Wall Street Journal, and I quote, "It's a shame, but we didn't think the Switch would be accepted this fast," end quote. Bandai Namco's Singapore jobs page shows at least 5 open positions. However, none of the listings say what kind of game the candidate would be working on. The job ad calls for people with experience working on AAA games. We have contacted Bandai Namco in an attempt to get more details. We'll report back with details more. One high-profile upcoming Switch release from Bandai Namco is Dark Souls Remastered, which is due out in May. It will include the Artorias of the Abyss, hopefully that's correct, DLC, along with a better frame rate and improved resolution. This is something from... They did a shooter called Get Even. The concept looked really neat. I didn't get a chance to play it. If anybody knows, tell me if it's good. I'm interested. Oh shoot, I don't think. Started in the middle. Let's Tarantino this article. It looks like Japanese publisher Bandai Namco is working on a new first-person shooter/adventure game that will be exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. A developer at Bandai Namco's Singapore studio posted on their LinkedIn page that they are working on an, and I quote, "unannounced IP first-person shooter/adventure exclusive for the Nintendo Switch," unquote. It's intriguing to think about Bandai Namco, which hasn't done all that much in FPS space, making a game in the genre that is exclusive to Switch. The game company published the shooter Get Even in 2017, though it's perhaps best known for its non-FPS franchises like Dragon Ball, Dark Souls, and Tekken. Yeah, like I said, if anybody remembers has played Get Even, tell me if it's any good. I might take a look at it. Like I said, we kind of Tarantino'd that article. I'm sorry. All right, so we have the first update. The story. In the same LinkedIn bio, the developer claims it's working on Ridge Racer 8, a game which has so far not been announced. The bio describes the title as, and I quote, "drift-based high-speed car racing game exclusive to the Nintendo Switch." The original story. There's a second update. A representative from Bandai Namco told GameSpot, and I quote, Bandai Namco Entertainment America Inc. Cannot confirm nor deny rumors or speculations at this about its products, end quote. Okay, so I'm assuming that's just we have to say it because the press asked and all that. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this is really happening. I'm interested to see what they do. Again, Get Even had such a cool look. I feel really bad. It's one of those I never had time for or the money to really buy. As far as Ridge Racer, yeah, I'm all for it. I kind of like. I don't know a lot about Ridge Racer. I think it's leans a little bit on the arcadey side, but all in all, I'm no problem with it, and I'm interested to see what they can do with a first-person shooter. So, moving on to our final story. This comes by way of Engadget. This is a really kind of a weird story that I found. It made me laugh earlier this week. Nintendo will convert gold points into Switch game discounts. Don't get your hopes up. Trust me, it's not as good as it sounds. Article Nick Summers, like I said, Engadget. If you buy a lot of Switch games, good news, Nintendo is about to reward you with some discounted software. The company announced in a blog post today that you'll soon be able to spend gold points earned by purchasing Nintendo games on Switch software in the eShop. Each gold point is worth 1 British pence, which means you'll need to buy a lot of games. At £40 a game on the eShop will net you 200 gold points or £2. Okay. Before you can get something substantial for free, it's a similar story in the US. A $50 purchase will net you 250 gold points or $2.50. If you don't have enough points, you can always make up the difference with regular cash. The change will come in effort in early March for US, European, and Japanese Switch owners. Gold points are valid for a year. Points earned this month will expire at the end of February 2018, which means you can wait and accrue a sizable stack of games before cashing in their associated points on a new title. Nintendo trialed the concept last year with a smattering of 3DS and Wii U titles. It's a temporary promotion, however, and limited to video game nindies such as Runner 2, Art of Balance, and Zen Pinball 3. Or Zen Pinball 3D. Expanding the reward scheme to the Switch feels like a smart way to boost the system's already impressive software attach rate. See, I disagree with that. I don't think this is. I think this is almost a non. They didn't need to do this. They're doing this, and it's just like, oh, well, look at these. If you buy plenty of our games, but at the same time, a $50 purchase earns you $2.50 in basically free cash. Well, great. I need to at $2.50 a game is $60. Like, is somebody want to do that math for me? It's a lot of. You have to, buy about 25, 30 games to get a free game. It's just, I don't know. As we've updated the post with US details. Yeah, I think it's a cool idea, but all in all, it's kind of, I think I saw something similar that PlayStation was doing, that you could sell trophies for, I think it was a couple weeks ago I talked about this, that Sony was running a thing that if you could sell your trophies for credits in the store. It's just, they're worth so little that it's not even, that it's barely worth it. But I don't know. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. As with any of the articles I talked about, feel free. Tell me your comments. One last thing before we go. I do want to talk about this because I was seeing, and this is just something I want to mention because I kept seeing kind of think pieces or whatever talking about this, and that is that CD Projekt Red, as far as I can tell, it's been confirmed that they will make an appearance at E3 this year. Now, what that exactly means is up for interpretation. And a lot of people are making a guess, are we going to see Cyberpunk 2077? Now, I'm actually going to lean with the optimistic crowd, even though I'm usually not optimistic, just because I really want to see gameplay. I really want to see the game. But knowing CD Projekt Red, we will not see that game until it is ready. So I'm going to guess that what they're going to actually do is they're probably going to show Gwent, and they're going to show some stuff, but or maybe we're going to get a trailer, but I highly doubt we're going to get true gameplay and details about Cyberpunk 2077 until at least next year. I don't think we're going to get any super solid details on the game for a while now. Just my opinion, I could be wrong come E3, but I'd feel remiss if I didn't mention that we got that news. But that's going to do it for this week, guys. I'm sorry if I've been a little tired, a little lethargic this video. Like, I mean, if you can see at the bottom of the screen, it's about 11 o'clock at night. I'm getting tired. Thanks for watching, everybody. As always, find me over on Facebook, Twitter, the website, minds.com. Links, all that stuff is down in the description below. Please remember to like, comment. If you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more next time. But until then, I'm AJ Gels. This is the Untitled Gaming Channel. I'm out.